But even if you think about it, many of us actually treat people with money way better than we treat people without.
Hey!
Here we go. Ready?
We literally just started talking and then it just kind of happened.
He's like, yeah, I'm paying dues. Just like.
So, I guess I'll do the intro.
Okay, here we go. Hello, dreamers and thinkers, and welcome to another episode of Undone. On today's episode, we have a returning guest, Mr. Zave the Fave. Woo! Inside cheers. That was me doing the cheers. Okay, so feedback that we got from the last episode we did. We got the feedback separately and apparently never shared it with each other.
That's true.
But we need to take it slow because apparently we just speak like everyone knows what we're talking about and it gets confusing. And so we've decided to be very structured this interview and fingers crossed everything goes to plan.
Yes.
But on today's episode, we are talking about dating. For those of you who have requested dating and you know I have said I never wanted to talk about dating, today's your lucky day. Today's your lucky day. I caved. We are here. Would you like to give the people, those who didn't watch the last episode, your credentials and what makes you qualified to talk about dating? Oh. I am not qualified. I just like to social commentate.
Wow, I don't forget. Dr. Xavier Mulenga.
I know that's right.
I work as a psychiatrist, both in general addictions and eating disorders, lots of trauma work.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll say I'm a specialist with relationships, but definitely I've seen a lot of relationships who people have come to my office, how to treat them, and I think along the way and just my studies and studying psychology, many inputs and advice I think I give people that hopefully can get the relationships on track, or if you're single and struggling, hopefully get you back in line where you start getting relationships that actually are fulfilling for you.
Are working, yes.
Yes.
So today we're actually, I thought I should make this distinction. We are focusing on like going on dates in the dating, so like helping the single, don't know what they're in people. Those are the people we're helping. The relationship people will help y'all another time. Y'all are doing fine. Yeah.
That's good. The single people.
We're trying to get people into relationships and then we'll come back and we'll help you guys in the relationships. But before we begin, popular opinions, we're doing dating edition. You go first.
Ooh, my unpopular opinion is that the obstacles you're having in your dating life.
I already hate this already. Go.
Most of them, it's you.
Yeah, there it is. Anyway, on that note, he said, I'm here to hold up the mirror.
Yes, it's you.
My unpopular opinion is I think we should just take it back. Okay, we're talking about this and I probably potentially romanticized the olden days, but we should just take it back to when relationships were about whatever you needed a relationship to be about. Like, I feel like people feel pressure to find the love of their life. And it's really stressing them out and they're getting decision paralysis. But some people are just looking for companionship. Some people are looking for business partners.
Yes.
It's okay if that's what you're looking for. Like, I think we should take it back to when people were looking for whatever they were looking for in a relationship, and it didn't have to be, I found the love of my life.
Ooh, okay, I like that one.
So that's my...
That later, but
yeah, I mean, I'm sure we will. That's my unpopular opinion. But I'm going to say statements / give Xavier scenarios, and then we're just going to unpack it and talk about it. So the first one is the dating pool has pee in it. Help.
Ooh, I think the dating pool has pee in it. No, I don't agree.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, I didn't know this. Yeah. We've had extensive conversations on the subject. You don't think the dating pool has pee in it?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, say more.
Exactly. I think maybe you're just not good at selecting who's right for you within the dating pool.
Oh, okay.
Because there've always been toxic men. Let's say, especially for women, the complaint now is that men these days, the low effort, this low vibration, whatever slang, new terminology you want to use. Yeah. Men have been like this for a long time. But I think now we're in a situation where if you look back in the old day, it was easier because your father had money, your mothers didn't have capital or jobs, so if you came in and said, I'm going to be breadwinner, naturally she's going to be, old school gender roles worked very well. Yeah. Then now you've come in where now you need more than that from a man, and then you're asking men who are like, okay, what's your emotional intelligence? You've been asking a man, have you been to therapy?
What's your love language?
Yeah, exactly. Then I'm like, why are you dating these men who already know when you talk to them within the first 10 minutes, you know this man's not right for you?
I love when people ask what's your love language, because 9 times out of 10, I'm willing to be wrong. Most men will at least mention physical touch as a love language.
It's one of mine too.
They may be smart enough to mention a second one. Or maybe start with the other one and then go physical touch.
That's the smart one, man. Lead with the
lead the other one. So say something like words of affirmation and then be like, and I guess physical touch, you know, so it's like, he had to think about it, you know, he was really thinking about it. Anyway, as you were, yes, literally.
No, but and it's funny because people like debunk like these 5 love languages, but I think it's a simple starting point for that conversation.
Yeah.
And I often tell people that the relationships that we're asking for now are not the relationships we grew up seeing. And we've actually, like before we started recording, a lot of us grew up with Western version of romance.
Yes.
You're watching all these, think of all the best rom-coms you've watched. Nowadays, I can tell you're mentioning white people rom-coms.
Yeah.
And that's not the way. It's not like this meet cute. So we met in the library, he picked a book, I picked a book.
Yeah, it
I
was
am
so
yet
cute.
to meet African who told me that's how they met that.
No. And you know, for the longest, I thought that'll be cute. This is what my story will look like. That's impractical for so many reasons. First of all, I don't like getting books from the library because I want to be able to highlight.
Or even like nice cafe, you come to Melbourne, you travel, but no.
Have you? Okay. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of it, I'm assuming majority of the audience is African, which they usually are. Yeah. We are putting it into the context of those spaces the people who you want to date are usually in.
Yes.
Which is that, this is in connection with the dating pool has P in it, is that a lot of black men aren't in a lot of wide spaces.
True.
If we're talking in the Australian landscape.
Yes. So
now you're going to Amapiano events, you're going to the club, you're going to, I don't know, maybe sporting events.
Basketball.
Basketball if you want, but also, anyway, not the point. So maybe you go to a random basketball club's game night. Where else can you meet people? Like the options for meeting people are now slim.
They are. You know, maybe it's even a generational thing because the women I know, let's say I'm 39, so I know in their 30s, they start going to these financial workshops. Because going to the club, you're going to meet club people.
That's the thing.
And the problem is that even let's say, I'm not even going to say I was a good guy when I went to club, but I had friends who were really good, but if we went to the club, it's pack mentality.
Yeah.
We're all going to be wolves or being wolves tonight. No one's going to be the good guy.
No one's looking for, first of all, don't look for love in the club.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, the songs are right. Don't find love in the club.
Don't look for love in the club.
But you can find someone in the club. My question to you is, what are your next steps outside the club and just get to know this person? What does that look like?
I don't know. Why are you asking me? What do people usually do? Do people in your generation?
I should say what
people want to get to know, like go on a date, don't they?
They
Isn't that the next step?
In the club, obviously, there's drinking.
There's a lot of,
and there's also the beginning of like sexual tension very early on. So it's going back to men. Physical touch is my favorite. You know, but it's like
I love that one. It's my favorite joke to tell because every time I'm like.
And we love it, and it's real. It's just like, you know what I think it's something where like black men. Have you ever tried to hold a black man, you know, and emotion hold it like a hug?
I was going to say literally. Okay, the example I had in my head was I was thinking of my little brother and how like he used to be so cuddly, and then at some point he just could care less for you wanting to touch him. And so then I'm also like, I know physical touch is not your love language because your mom would be shocked if you walked up to her and hugged it today. Like, so when you say physical touch is my love language, how does it work?
I think physical touch is still the love language, right? Because it doesn't really change much for many people. I think over time, it could, for some people it changes, but a lot of it's quite fixed in a way, right?
Yeah.
But what happens is when we're kids, we're more naive, it's like touching, then you reach a point where it's not cool to be hugging your mom. It's not cool to be hugging anyone, apparently. You know, just touching. If your boy, and it's like that's with your boys, like, what's up? Like, that's when men get in touch with their homies, hugging, even guys who go footy, rugby. It's very, very intimate when you think about the touching, sweating, like, we won that game, taking shirts off. Almost homoerotic in this country, even though internalized homophobia won't let us continue that discussion.
Listen.
But then what happens is then we start being trained as men that stoic, closed offness attracts women. And it does to a certain point. But in our mind, it attracts women, but it also means you're a settled, calm guy. You're not reactive. You're not impulsive. Even though you might be those things, but you shut down. So it means that you can't do touch. But fast forward, you meet a man and you try and you're in a relationship and you hug him just for the sake of hugging him. Yeah. Some of them get very awkward, and some of them, if they really, it's like guys like almost started crying. I had a friend who was like, done it? I guess my husband was going, long-term boyfriend was going to issue. He came over because he didn't get promotion at work. You know, this guy finance was always trying to get ahead. But obviously, systemic racism, it was never going to be him. But he thought, oh no, if I do the right things, make the white people happy,
it'll be Nick.
It's not someone else. Nick from whatever got it. You know, sorry, Tanaka. You know, it's like. Yeah. But then he came home. He came to her house, and she's like, cooking him soup. It was really sad. And she just hugged him, and this guy just like spooned him, started crying, and he was so apologetic. He's like, "Oh, don't tell anyone. That was so silly." I got it. But he really enjoyed the comfort. He said, "Thank you," but also thank you, but also let's not do it again. Yeah. And that's not normally me. Yeah. Because it's shutting it down. So that's why a lot of men, when they can open up, the problem is that they feel they'll break down. So physical touch can still mean that to them. Yeah. But for many men, physical touch means sex. That's what they're saying, which is not really what the thing is. And they might say it differently. They say, "Oh no, it's touching. I'm a tactile guy," but he's just touching you in the bunda and just trying to grope you. Groping is not.
Where's the physical touch?
Yeah, exactly. Physical touch is hand holding. Like, you know.
Actual. I'm trying to decide how much of my personal life I want to share.
Hey, listen, you go. It's just the internet and the whole wide world hearing this.
Right, literally. Okay, I'm gonna do it. I'll decide if I want to edit it out later. There was this guy I was seeing. He claimed his love language was physical touch. I was like, okay, whatever. Like, rolled my eyes. But he couldn't do hand holding. He couldn't do hand holding. He's like, I'm not really a hand holding kind of guy. Oof. I was like, huh?
What does physical touch mean to him? What did you get?
That's what I mean. I'm like, what does physical touch mean to you then? Hugs were like, just like, never, like it was. I was like, you're full of crap.
Yeah.
Like, respectfully.
And those are the discussions we don't have. You know, if someone says it, I said you have to take that next step. And maybe I've had the joy of doing, psychiatry and getting involved like those therapy where, what's the question behind the question?
Yeah.
Or what's the next step? You can say these things, and men love saying statements. Which they feel like, leave it, I've said it. It's like, no, let's break it down a bit more. Yeah. So even for me, it's like physical touch. Even for me, hey, I've been small spoon before, and it's comfortable. But it's not something I want it to be out there. But now when we're being open, but it's something where you have to get me where I'm really trusting of the relationship, because I can't let if I don't trust anyone, but the woman will know. Women actually know. It's like, maybe you need more. Hey, I'm good.
I'm okay.
I'm good. Yeah. But going back to what he said, and then asking, what are your types of physical touch? Because in acts of service, what are your types of, or even words of affirmation, what are your types? Because people just say these statements. Okay, elaborate.
Yeah, what does that mean?
For you to be in a relationship with this man, maybe if it's hand holding, okay, maybe it's just not his thing. What is it? And then if it starts leaning towards the sexual nature, then I don't know how true the intentions are there. Yeah. I think what a lot of men try and say is like, oh, I just would eventually like this to be sexual. Yeah. That's what a lot of men say when saying physical touch. Yeah. Whereas in hand holding is part of it. I like, for me, I'm a more hug person, or if we hang together on the sofa, if we're together watching a film and we're close. And if you start saying that, I have more faith.
That it doesn't just mean sex.
Yeah, he sees you there, he slaps your ass when he walks past you. We don't find it can be endearing to a certain point, then can ask me, is that all you see me as? And it is good to have those discussions. Yeah. And if someone pushes away, and let's say the hand holding thing, part of me is like, you don't like being seen in public holding hands, or
right? Like where
we might be fighting negative.
I don't know if the statistics are leaned the way you're saying they're leaned with these happy relationships. Oh yes, people get married and
yes. I should say that. The statistics depend which statistic you're trying to take. So now, let's say the biggest one that we're having is the incompatibility of men and women to a certain degree. Yeah. Because now you've got a lot more women. Let me just take it in because I did academia. Far less men start or finish university. More women are finishing university, so more women are getting professional jobs.
Okay, pause. Is this like on a global scale or specifically to? Okay, yeah.
Even if you go back in Africa, it's funny because we don't do as much research, but even in Zambia, I told my friends who work in banks. They stopped giving loans to men. Before it used to be a man who came up with the idea. Really? So now they find that women are better people to give small loans to. Like my friend is a small business business. And he says when a woman comes, we're more likely to give her a loan. Then this man will come and say, I think there's this market and it's going to bring, men can be flashy and things.
That's what I was going to say. I think men are good at coming up with so many ideas and being like, this is what we're going to do and sell you a vision. Whereas by the time a woman decides to take a bet on herself, obviously speaking generally. Yep. But anyway, as I was saying, by the time a woman decides to bet on herself, she's gonna see it through.
Yeah, and think about it.
She's gonna see it through.
Go back in Zimbabwe. How many Zimbabwean women are now being bigger influencers? Regard their own law practices. Even the medical doctors. Do you know I'm yet to meet as many Zimbabwean men or Zambian men finish med school here than Zimbabwean women or Nigerian women. It's like the numbers are actually tracking across.
Someone said something to me actually on that about how Zimbabwean women and Nigerian women in Australia, I don't know what this research is, but I do trust that this person researched it. Per capita capita in Australia are like up there economically in terms of like achievements, education, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I was like, that doesn't surprise me actually.
Yeah, no, and it's like,
but that makes sense.
It does. I know and that's like maybe we're doing this big academic level, but think about how that affects the dating markets. There are many more educated women now meeting men who don't have the social capital or the education. So now a lot of women, obviously, you're dating down. And once you date down, even that's why I think sometimes dating...
Is that an unpopular opinion, though? Like, does he need to have an education if you have an education? Like, when we say education, like, does he need to have gone to, like, university? I don't make it sound bad.
No, that's a good point.
Like, how does that play into the dynamics of the relationship and dating?
Oh, exactly. Okay, good. Because sometimes it sounds elitist when I say it, but there's a reason why people who have got bachelor's degrees date each other, people who don't have date each other, and people, it's like we're staying within your class structure. Yeah. Means you're going to diminish with different problems. So what university teaches many people is exposed to different cultures, critical thinking, writing essays. A lot of that teaches you thinking widely about topics. I'm not saying you have to go to university to be that way, but if you go there and you progress, even your career, the money you make, and your pathway becomes exponentially better, usually. I'm not saying you need a degree, and everyone thinks they can become a TikTok influencer, but if you look at the numbers, most influencers don't make that money. It's like the top, 10% or whatever.
Especially in Australia. Yeah. It's all different,
See, so then what happened is then you're with this man who, for lack of a better term, your aspirations are now, you've got a 6-figure salary, he's got far less. You're the one who now put the majority of the mortgage on you get paid for a better wedding. So you start carrying the burden of some of those things. And I think in a relationship, if you're both on the same trajectory, or at least parallel paths going the same way, you're going to struggle.
Okay, so you've just said again, this isn't a debate, but you said the dating pool does not have P in it. And then you just said women are more educated, they're doing more whatever, and it's important that you're on the same trajectory and pathway for the success of the relationship.
But where are you finding these men? Because you have to ask yourself, because these are my piano, we'll go to Afrobeat events.
I'm screaming, yes.
But it's like, I have yet to, you know what I mean? Even my parents didn't meet discotheque. You know what I mean?
I'm screaming, yeah.
Yeah, it's like you have, where you meet people is where it sets the foundation, to be honest.
Okay, my perspective in this whole thing is a young Christian woman. Even in the church, churches are skewed. They're majority female than they are male, especially when you get to that 18 to, let's go, 35 age range. The youth. There are still more women than men. Let's say you start going to other churches or you're going to church events. There are still, so where are these spaces that we're saying don't have P in it?
Well, church is very selective, but you're right. You really highlighted a good point there. Although many of you Christian girls don't like dating Christian guys. I don't know why you said that.
First of all, I don't even know why you'd say it like that.
I've met many of you. I'm at the church, you with this guy who doesn't really go to church.
Leave me out of it. Church girls love to convert. Church girls love to, I've had friends who have dated Muslim men, and I'm like, in their religion, you would have to convert. What was the mathematics you did here?
I was hoping my tool was going to get him over, and I think that's something.
I'm hoping you find Jesus through me.
And I think we still put a lot of impetus on that because women we know pick men up just naturally in a lot of relationships. And we romanticize my
glow up.
We glow up. Yeah. But then the amount of emotional, financial labor you're putting in does not equal. It's not it usually at the end of the day. Some people can reciprocate. Yeah. But go back to your Christian meetups. That one I think is very hard because a lot of Christian girls ask them, how about the Christian men? And they'll be like, the quality is also not good here. It says something about maybe...
That's what I'm saying. There's pee in the pool.
I like fighting back. Maybe that's my controversial opinion because then it's like... But then also, do you know the type of man who's good for you?
Okay, amazing. This takes us on to the next scenario. To have them or not to have them, because people seem to have back and forths about, no, you should have a list, know exactly what you're looking for. No, you should be looking about whether there's chemistry and you like being around them, or maybe how they make you feel. No, so it's like, is it beneficial to have a list or not to have a list? Should certain people have lists and certain people not have lists? Like what? How do we...
Overthinkers, you should have smaller lists.
How do you know if you're an overthinker? I'm kidding.
Yeah, you should know this one.
I'm so kidding. I really tried.
Yeah, you tried. No, you tried a good one. I think lists are good if they involve lots of introspection and looking back at your experience in past failed relationships.
Okay.
That's when lists make sense. If you're making a list in a vacuum, because then it's like, I want a man who's doing a good job, financially responsible, caring, kind. Like, who doesn't want those things? But going back to what you mentioned about knowing whether a man's trash, I'm very similar, but it's good. I'm inside the connection. I hang with men. I've been in these toxic groups, and I've been one of these men before. You know? So it's like insider knowledge. But what I find is more telling is how a woman talks to me about her man, or a man is interested in. And usually then I can tell, nah, it's not for you. And they're like, oh no, I ever met him, like, no, it's the way you even describing, the way your body language, the way you change. I know you at your baseline when you're happy.
Yeah.
So say, because I know you when you're really, I know when you're so stressed. And you start saying like, oh no, it's good, it's just that. It's like, then I'm like, nah, it's not for you. Yeah. Already what you're displaying to me is you're making compromises. Yeah. It's coming about even just how you talk about it. Yeah. That's enough. Yeah. And then sometimes, and people, we fight against our intuition. More and more women are leaning into trusting their guts. Yeah. But sometimes I was talking to someone the other day, and another woman was saying, you know what? A lot of women are vocal online and saying this and boundaries still dating trash men. Like behind the scenes, the number of mistress pays or the pick me women are still on the rise. I actually think,
don't get me started. Yeah.
Like, do this with your man boundary. Don't you check their marriages? Like, wow, you are not preaching the same thing.
No, you're not doing what you were preaching.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because it's harder. Saying is something. It's so much, that's why going back to listing. It's easy to just write these bland statements. I think it's better to have simple lists. There's some things like, I don't know if lists are good if it's going to be things like, okay, do you know what you being treated with respect should be like? Because some people don't know. So they tolerate lots of things, right? Boundaries. Is
that subjective though?
It is subjective, but then I think the question is, when you're in this relationship, do you feel happy more often than not? Or is there always this weird sense of tension? That's not something because romanticize tension. It's like, it's how it is.
It's the up and down, the flames. Not flames, you are seeing flames, the sparks.
And all of us come from, a lot of us, especially if you come from lots of African diaspora, or these are countries where we came from. Like, I came when I was 19 to Australia, but the amount of toxic things I knew and dysfunction, I'm like, oh, that's normal. So when I meet someone, it's like, oh no, we're not fighting as much as these people, so it must be a good relationship. Yeah. Even though it really isn't, it's just that, okay, no one's infecting someone else with the STI, no one's beating, I'm not an alcoholic. Yeah, but do you even like this person? Do you see yourself building? Because some people like using things like, let's say, not to bring back church too much into it, but church is like a good structure where you can say.
No, I think you're about to touch on an important topic because I think you're going to say a lot of people think that just because they go to church with someone, that is enough of a foundation to date them. Yes. And it's actually not. You saying you're a Christian is not enough reason to date. It's like, do we have similar interests? Do I even like being around you? Actually, pause before we get to similar interests. Do I even like being around you? Do we have similar interests? Do we have similar values? Because just because that value, which is a core value, I will say, is aligned, that doesn't mean you align in all these other values.
Thank you. And even just take it even simpler than that. When you meet up with this person, are you more drained when you meet them? Are they filling your cup? We all know these statements, but you have to analyze for yourself. And it's like, oh no, but it's not as bad as my other one who's more controlling. No, that's not. Don't compromise. And and you're right. And I think then people cover it up because, okay, she's a Proverbs 31 girl, this and that, and we start quoting.
No, you know the terminology.
Listen, there are many because religion is important. People grew up with the church. Like I grew up more Catholic, so maybe I'm more conservative. That's what we go do 1 hour. We don't do anything else. We don't dance and sing. We just do our thing, pray. Blood Christ for
keep it, good to go. Yeah.
So, and we get lots of criticism, just being Catholic, just being silly. I guess ultimately
we're not digressing. Focus.
But religion, and I've seen in all the churches, the structure is that okay, we have this, that's going to be enough because it's going to shape our childbearing, our children, the school system too. But do you even like your partner? Do you? I think because the Gottmans.
They're the ones who came up with. Wait, no.
They did the Jewish people did like this, the psychologists who do this like love lab. They wrote this book. Was it the 8 Keys to Marriage? I forgot the book is.
Something like that. Yeah, that sounds familiar.
But they do simple, very pragmatic things because I think sometimes we're not good at leading with our intuition. Yeah. So they would say, okay, do you know what a love map is? I'm like, what does love map? And there's this love map quiz where they ask you things where you should answer without your partner, then answer with your partner. It's like, do you know your partner's favorite color? And as a man, it can humble you quick because it's asking you.
She doesn't have a favorite color.
Favorite color. We don't talk about that. But then we get dismissive. But I think what they're trying to say is, how well do you know her?
Yeah.
So if you're buying a gift, she likes maybe pink wrapping. It's like it flows on, and they ask, do you know her birthday? Do you know what makes her upset with work?
Yeah.
Do you know what makes her feel happier when she's stressed?
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't actually sit down for their partner and think about it.
Yeah.
It's a good questionnaire because most people, when you do it, you realize you fail it. I mean, it's not so much like it's a fail or pass, but it's something where we can build up.
Yeah.
What does she enjoy doing? Men like doing things we like doing. It's like, hey, honey, I booked us a restaurant at this place. It's the restaurant you like. It's not the restaurant she likes. But
like you don't ask.
I paid for it. I paid for the Uber.
Yeah. She's going to love it.
Yeah. And then we throw money at things, which money eases the road for many things, but I think it's a distraction.
Yeah.
Because it's just another way of saying, I don't know you. Here's money. Figure it out for
Yeah.
yourself.
I didn't know what to buy you, so I just thought it'd be better if I just gave you the money so you could go get it yourself.
Or you like Valentine's.
Dash that envelope into your face.
It's such a commercial cash grab. Valentine's
I used to be that person who just thought Valentine's Day was just it is.
But if you like Valentine's
logically, but I like romance. I love rom-coms. Honestly, I'd forget action, rom-coms are me. So then I was like, no, I do like Valentine's Day. I just don't like how cringy it can be.
Yeah, and that cringiness.
Yeah.
We have to even analyze that on another level because
don't do that.
Yeah. We should. I like the
stop doing that.
It's like we just being like, oh, I'm actually being helpful and vulnerable. No, screw that. Stop that. It's getting too sickening.
Yeah, because I'm a thug.
Yeah.
Anyway,
means that emotional vulnerability we're running away from.
It's a bit gross, no? There's nothing logical about emotional vulnerability. Now I've cried and I'm dehydrated and I need to take Panadol and a nap. Where do we go from here?
Maybe this man's not for you.
Huh? No, I just mean in general. You're going through something, you cry. Okay, now I've cried and I'm dehydrated and you take a nap.
Yeah, do that. You have your depression.
But what did this achieve?
It's achieved.
I could have kept thugging it out and not needed the nap and the Panadol.
Well, many women are thugging it out and they still come to the same conclusion, a breakdown. So whether you thug it out or you don't, you still reach the same destination.
I'm screaming.
Where the bigger thing is, can I have a discussion with my partner about this and not be shut down?
Yeah.
And men, we like shutting down. We like mansplaining. Yeah. So even before we went and talking on the podcast, I'm hearing things. I'm thinking, I can add. No, just shut up. It's not your space.
Yeah.
And it takes a while to get used to that. Then you start listening to women. Yeah. And listening to women is such an interesting thing because then you realize, I don't think I've ever listened to women before.
On this, so someone was asking me what the audience makeup is for the podcast. And I was like, obviously majority young women. And then they were just saying how men usually don't listen to women. And I was like, men don't really listen to podcasts. And if they are going to, I already know what they're going to listen to. And then we're just talking about how when people are dating, people should start asking their partners if they listen, read, consume any works by females.
Ooh, yes.
And I did that earlier this week at work. One of the guys actually was like, yeah, I actually already knew the statistic and it just talks about our biases. I was like, shout out to you. And then the other guy was like, I was like, when was the last time, because he reads a lot. I was like, when was the last time you read a female author? And then he was like, but he's also doing a double degree in literature and something else. And I was like, that wasn't part of this syllabus. He was like, I was really about to tell you Jane Austen. Yeah, I was like, yeah, I knew you were about to cop out. When was the last time you read a female, let alone a black female? And I was like, and if you look... Guys, Chimamanda at the bare minimum. At the bare minimum, tell me you've read half of A Yellow Sun or something. I
don't read. I like Chimamanda's non-fiction. Fiction, I don't like Chimamanda's fiction.
Really?
And so the things like It's Hard to Be a Feminist and those things, I enjoy that. Or maybe even, she did a short story one. Was it?
Yes, the one where the girl gets pregnant.
Yes,
and
that one. I like that. Because I
that
got
was
the book.
good.
But maybe it's because my short attention span, or it's the story which was contained.
Yeah.
But I realize, is it also because I just don't like a woman's story? Because female perspectives, that's the thing. When men read, we grew up reading stories of it's a stoicism, this, and men like reading history. They know hey man, Genghis Khan, Napoleon. We like these really toxic, dangerous men. Yeah. Then you say, here's a woman reading talking about a marriage she doesn't like. And I think a lot of times we don't like reading that. It makes us, we feel like we're the bad guys, we're being targeted. Because men like centering themselves in everything. So it's like, Chimanda's always saying things about men, this and that. That's why she got with this white guy. She doesn't like black men. So because we're too attacked.
Yeah.
But you're right. When you start reading black women, especially because that's a that's many levels to get to that point.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm bell hooks,
Bell hooks is so radical.
Yeah, she's maybe, to be too radical.
I don't think she's... I don't know what to say. Like, I feel like she feels too radical, but she shouldn't.
That's a good point. And
that's how I feel about her. Like, reading her work, I'm like, ugh, and then I stop, and then I'm like, oh, she wasn't wrong, but I didn't like what it was evoking.
and that's the part where we don't even feel comfortable having these discussions where men and women can get together and it's like, what are these uncomfortable feelings we're feeling?
Yeah.
And let's just hash it out.
Yeah.
Those conversations get shut down or not had at all, right?
Yeah.
So that's why bell hooks, if you read these, what I like doing is maybe. I don't even know Nedra Tawwab. She did this book on boundaries.
No.
It's like make boundaries, find peace. So she's a black psychologist in America, and it's literally boundaries on family, things, black tax, things that for black people it's like we find very hard, but she gives you strategies.
Yeah.
So it's very, very familiar.
Yeah.
And because people like self-help books and this sort of non-fiction, it's like a good starting point.
Yeah.
But even then, I ask lots of women are better because women read widely, and it's like, no, I'm reading more Zim fiction or Zim authors are coming up.
Bro, that is literally my current thing. The other day, a couple weeks ago, when I was with my family, I was asking them like what their favorite Zim authors were, and my cousin just moved from Zim, and I was asking her who she's like 17. I was asking her who she enjoyed when she was going through school, all that kind of stuff, because I'm like, I want to know who you guys were reading that are Zimbabwean. Like, I realized I've been reading black women. My other unpopular opinion that's recently come is that I don't feel as connected to female African American authors. So reading their work actually can be a bit disconnected and disengaged for me.
Yeah,
I love reading African women though.
Yes.
And then I was like, I wonder what it would feel like to read Zimbabwean women or just like Zimbabwean authors. So that was the thought process.
Okay, yes, reading your own, because those narratives fit better to us. Blacks are all monoliths, so yeah, sure, African American, they're black there, we're black here, but our center is Africa, right?
Yeah.
So the authors there describe things that we're going with. They describe like cultural things in Zimbabwe, but they're talking about small house, big house, or in Zambia, we're talking about different, even tribal clashes.
Yeah.
Like I'm from Bemba tribe, so it's like, you're talking to a girl who's Lozi. That's stuff, tribalism and xenophobia still exists back home, and when you read the literature, it's so real, the way they'll talk about, this one then got pregnant by this one, like, and they feel so wild, but when you're from them, it's like, oh yeah, I can get this, and it grounds us. That's why we like that literature. But the thing is, trying to find more of those voices, it's coming up. Black female authors are coming up. And I feel the problem is now we don't have the same corresponding with black male literature to match that level of creativity, poetry. It's there in drips and drabs. And invariably, usually it's creative spaces, usually lots of maybe gay black male poets as well, so we get out there. And then because that's how it internalize homophobia, we're like, gay. That's why when you ask men about poetry, ask him if he reads poems. I mean, not that every man needs to, but
they don't.
The response they're going to get, or ask him if he reads for fun.
Tupac.
And that was a street poet, it's like, but that's like a safe answer. Like, Tupac. Really, but it was very problematic. He had domestic violence issues.
For sure.
Also, the stuff going to jail. Listen, we don't romanticize that in the community, really, but I respect he was going through his own thing, and, he comes from a different time and space. But even for me, audiobooks, I recognize, I like listening when it's just men talking to me. And then, break it down with the therapist and friends, like, would you listen to a female? So it's like, the first one I ever did was the Bell Hooks one. Yeah. And even then I was just like...
All About Love? Was that the first one?
No, All About Love. What's the one about the masculinity one?
Oh!
Change,
I don't know what it's called, but I know what you're talking about,
cover, anyway. It's one about masculinity. It's very black masculinity and change. And maybe I was just more invested because she sounded to me like older maternal figure talking to me about masculinity. But really, it took me a while to get used to even hearing a female voice talking to me. And I'm just there, I'm like, let me just get the book. But this is a lot about me.
So I can read it in my voice.
but hearing women talk about things.
So how does that play into dating?
Well, if you don't know how to listen to women, how do you listen to your female partner?
Whoa, on that note. Nice, easy one-liner.
But it comes across that way.
Yeah. No, practically, yes. Okay. Lists. Okay. Because I was like, we did all this because we're talking about lists.
Yes, we were.
What are practical steps to creating a list? I remembered what I was going to say earlier. Yeah. I am the kind of friend who knows when you're dating a trash person. Look, does it always work out for myself? That's another story. But I know when people are dating trash humans. And then now when you're trying to tell someone, babe, I don't know if that's a good guy. Like, I don't know if that's your guy. Oh, but he's nice, but he treats me so well. And then I sound really harsh because I'm like, isn't that what most decent human beings do? Don't they treat you with kindness? Aren't they thoughtful? Don't they treat you well? Isn't that the bare minimum? Why are we clapping hands for the bare minimum?
No, he sent an Uber and he booked the place.
That would even be leaps and bounds. He sent an Uber and he booked the place. Would be like, oh my gosh, I have to marry him now. I'm like, what? Huh? That can't be on the list.
In those places, I find, do I even tell women because obviously women ask me this, but men ask me relationship questions differently. But women, this is a very common one. I even ask them, how much do your friends know about this person in the beginning? If you're such, and you, so even I know relationships in the past where have not been healthy for me, I kept it from my boys or family because I knew already.
This is dead haps.
In my mind, I was like, oh no, this is building it up, but you already know.
Yeah.
So now that our tactics now change, like you have to talk to your friends earlier. If they really are your friends, respect their opinion because they've been riding with you for a while.
Yeah.
And it's very easy for us when we were dating. It now becomes this like very objective thing, like, oh, you don't know him like I do.
Yeah.
But your friends know you.
Yeah.
And they're noticing something that's negative here, and it's good to listen to them. So some women who get in some of the worst relationships I've seen is where like, oh, I don't really talk to my girls. Women can be bitchy. Anyone who says like
they're jealous.
Yeah. But then people also, some guys will sleep with your girl. You have some women who chase your man because even when you get to a relationship or get married, those men get chased more.
Yeah.
So invariably, I understand the paranoia, but it's not just something you can control. It's up to the man you're with.
Yeah.
So it's like building that sort of thing around trust. But it's a lot. It's going back to answer your question in a sense is that your list should incorporate a lot of things about your failures in relationships. So if you're not good at selecting men, maybe it's good to bring on some help. So some people talk about relationships when they're in therapy, and it's a bit triggering because your therapist will ask you questions which you don't want to answer, and it's like, why are we talking about this? Because they'll say like, oh, it sounds like the last guy. He was nice to you. Because many men said love bombing is a real thing. Yeah. And love bombing's got different degrees.
Love bombing is so fun.
Yeah.
I always say this. I'm like, let's not lie to ourselves. Being love bombed is fire. It's not helpful, but it's fun. Nigerian men are successful in dating by their standards because they love bomb well. It's a vibe, but again, we need some sobriety. We need your brain. Yeah, it's intoxicating. No, it is. Need to bring the sobriety back into the conversation so we can make some clear-headed decisions.
And I think that says a lot about us where we're so used to accepting the fast and the bare minimum.
Yeah.
When you start getting love bombed, in your mind, it's like we're getting married.
Yeah.
People escalate it like this is the one because no one's even started like this.
Yeah.
When really healthy relationships, like when you look at the studies and people, they start off very like meh. It's like, oh, we just met, went to a cafe. Hopefully, if it's someone who's directive, he'll be saying, hey, I really like you. He tells you what he likes about you. Let's try and explore this. I think it's good to take it. If he tells you, I like taking it slow, so I'm not someone who's going to be like, in a month's time, I'm saying, yeah, let's go steady. Maybe say like, let's go for 3 months and see how we go. Because I find that's when a lot of our personality come out, our flaws.
Yeah.
Because when you start saying, let's commit early, you met at a nice club. And usually we're so, in terms of intimacy, we exchange lots of sex early in relationships to try and keep a person. Because especially as men, physical touch is our love language. which really always comes to equal like sex and I'm happy. But that's not really what it means.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the thing where you start compromising yourself so early on. Whether it's the love bombing and accepting like, oh, okay, it's a bit too much. You can even say that, like, hey, I think it's a bit too much. And if the man pushes back, it also says a lot about him. Because someone who's hearing you say, oh, this girl I really like is not happy about something I'm doing.
Yeah.
I should try and change my behavior around that.
Yeah.
That's the simplest term. So if a man says like, oh no, but this and that, it never happens. Other women.
It's just because you've never been treated like this.
Yeah. But that's
okay.
You see, so it's trying to make it your fault. You're just trying to set a boundary, and it's your fault. And some people when they're traumatized, the boundaries become too high because then they've been so traumatized. It's just like they need therapy because a lot of people who try and set the boundaries or make the big lists are usually people who probably haven't processed their journey the healthiest. So people come to me and like, oh, Zave, I read like 3 lists. So one is how to be treated. This and that. They give you this whole mathematical equation
of how it should. Yeah.
Then I say like, oh, okay, good luck. But I always tell them I still think you've got too many lists, too many things on your list. And it's like, oh no, Zave, you haven't been in these streets and this and that and fighting. It's like, all right, you go ahead. And that's still invariably be dating trash men without that list. So even with the maybe less is more.
Yeah.
But also, you're the obstacle,
Yeah.
So,
you're the obstacle.
The other day, I was talking to someone like in Melbourne. I always joke, Melbourne people love you, toxic relationships. Sydney, we enjoy.
There's a bunch of creatives in Melbourne. It just makes sense. People love the real grandeur and could it fit in a boho indie film or could it fit in a big rom-com? How's this plot playing out? We love that.
You do. And the men are so good with the thing. They know how to take the angles. I barely know my phone. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
No, and then it's it's all fantasy, smoke and mirrors, right?
For sure.
But then in Sydney, we also have the same. But Sydney, we like being we got money, we're sensible, we're not too creative, we're professionals here. But that means we're hiding behind that as well.
Yeah.
Because the question still becomes, do you like this person? Are you aligned? Let's say if you're in spirituality, because religion is important in that community.
100%.
So it's even if they say, okay, what are we doing? Let's say we're both Christian, which you're doing. Let's say you're doing Planet Shakers, someone's Hillsong. Can you still find some commonality in that? Does it mean for your relationship to thrive that you both have committed to the one? So a lot of the churches nowadays, they do strongly encourage that you're both going to be attending this one church together,
Yeah.
What does that mean for your relationship? Suppose he's stuck on that, and then people just say someone has to sacrifice.
Yeah.
But then if it's going to compromise if it's not the right church for you, you're already compromising on such a big level.
Yeah.
Or whether it's okay, maybe if you meet the guy at church, let's maybe not bring that. Let's say you meet a church that's very similar. So my brother, there's also sister churches. So but something similar.
Yeah.
Then she's okay, she goes to that church, but the values and foundations are very similar to your own church.
Yeah.
That can be a starting point that you can work with that.
Yeah.
If they're completely different, then you're going to have trouble. Or if you have different religions, that always brings in trouble as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And then as well, even what does your career aspirations look like?
Yes.
And whether you're actually achieving it. Because men are always I'm grinding. I've met guys who've been grinding for the last 20 years and they're still the same position they were when they started grinding.
I know a guy, hopefully he will not be identifiable by how I describe this, but I've always said this guy is ambitious. If you sit down opposite him and you hear him describe what he wants to do and change, it's never the same. It does change. It's never consistent. But whatever point in time you found him and he has that ambition, you will be sold. You're wow, this is a great plan. It's going to have so much great impact. Da, 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 da. The work ethic and the discipline to match the ambition is not there. So I always think that's also if you're going to put career ambitions on the thing, make sure someone has the track record to back it up. They may not have been where they plan to go, but make sure they have the track record to back up that they can do something. They can do something.
Thank you. The track record is so important. That's why for men, I think for women, I say just look for consistency.
Yeah.
If when it's so smoke and mirrors, they're talking, all right, let me just look at what's he been achieving. And the track record is important because sometimes it's oh no, it's an evolving process. But I was okay, where'd you come from? And how do you evolve from what the past is? Because it's small wins, saying, I used to maybe, I'm giving very simple examples.
Yeah.
I used to be a credit card guy, but I'm not good with credit, so I don't even have credit cards anymore.
Yeah.
And it's okay, so this man is not in debt in that sense.
Yeah.
Or he's saying okay, I save, I do this and that with money. Or he went to therapy and said, I found I was a very selfish partner. Because I've always wanted my needs to be me, women have to be serving me, blah, blah, blah.
On that, my unpopular opinion, sometimes you really have to dig a little deeper when a man says he's been to therapy. Has he been to therapy or did he go to therapy once? In that one therapy session, he found out he was selfish and then he's been unpacking that one therapy session for 10 years. These are the questions we need to be asking.
Black men are not there yet in terms of the evolution of therapy. And therapy's got ebbs and flows. Which many people who have been in therapy long time. I used to be up in therapy when I say I'm up to 5, was it up 7 years in the end?
Yeah.
But also I used the guise of being in psychiatry training because it was very much encouraged that you need to work on your own stuff because you're working with people who are really well. So you need your own safe space. So in my mind, I remember thinking this is what I'm doing. Not because I've got problems, but the people I treat got problems. So I fix myself. But once I came in, very evident a lot was about me, right? But then the process, I hated it. The first 2 yewas I was just featuring there. I was just man, this sucks. I actually this is very frustrating, blah, blah. And then she just told me, because you don't share much in this process.
You're not really adding.
How are you going? I'm good. The weekend was good, actually, and this and that.
And then this is your itemized list. You come with your shopping list.
Yeah, see, and then when you start opening up.
Work is good. My family's good.
or something, or guys doing this thing where something was bad, but I solved it. You fixed it.
We overcame.
Yeah, we overcame, or we move. Or even things which are traumatic, we shut down. So even a good friend, he's in the space of like 12 months, both his parents died.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, it's so sad because his parents, in his mind, they didn't have the greatest relationship, like close relationship with his mom.
Yeah.
But the way you talk about it's like, oh, you know, it's just how it is. And I'm like, man, that's like really, I've met your mom. It's very traumatic stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but you know, I'm sort of like the firstborn and it's like he's got a good job. So it's like, I have to hold it together.
Yeah.
But then fast forward, like over the years of time, he's like, man, you know what? I really was so sad. It's like now he's only processing the grief now. Because in the moment, especially for African funerals, the men have to be like...
they have to be the strong ones.
Yeah, which means like you can't cry in public. I mean...
It's unfortunate.
And it's like you're not processing grief. And that's what therapy will guide you through. But it's such a difficult, emotionally draining process. And you're paying money for it. And not seeing very tangible KPIs or outcomes. And then you disengage. And then when you realize you're the problem, men are like, just like other women. We project back the therapist and we bounce.
Yeah. Okay, speaking on KPIs, I had this conversation on my close friends because I was testing out some content and we were talking about why successful people... Okay, let me not say successful people. It was the like really big personality, ambitious, grinding, like...
Yeah.
You guys know what I'm describing, right?
Yep. Oh, we know.
Why those people struggle in dating. The options were... Is it because they have no emotional like energy left to give into like this? I was specific to in the startup of a relationship. Because I think once you're in a relationship, yes, it requires maintenance and all that kind of stuff, but it's a lot easier. But I think it takes a lot more to get into a relationship. There's a lot of emotional investment. So it's like, do they just not have the emotional energy left over to invest into starting up a relationship? Or is this whole thing of like you have a superiority complex about like now you feel like, you know, you're this somebody depending on what you're doing, whatever, like, ugh, this person's not good enough. This person's not good enough. I didn't like the way he like chewed, whatever. Or is it a thing that people now get really nasty attitudes? Xavier, I'm going to de-identify you, also gave us a third option, which is that these kinds of people are, you go.
Oh yeah, these people are, when you're going to work, meeting high KPIs, you need black and white thinking, decision making, cutting off a few people, achieving tasks, and the very obvious things that you're guided. You do this, if you work more hours at a certain job and you begin to learn your skill, you get rewarded overtime money. The boss like, thank goodness you came through for us in the clutch. You get lots of reward for doing the work in a very structured environment. And work is... That's why employment is so grounding for many of us. It's structured, rule-based environments. Then you go home to a relationship where not everything's black and white. There's lots of gray in relationships. And no, your partner won't always be your biggest cheerleader. You come home like, hey, you know, I got a promotion. This one is like, I've not seen you these last 4, or not even wife. Your partner hasn't seen you for these last 3 months because you're working overtime. So she's like, I don't even know who you are anymore. And this relationship is failing. And then you're always hearing is that, are you not hearing? I'm working hard for us. But we're really working hard for ourselves. So those people tend to struggle and become avoidant relationships. And they disengage early because the same rewards you get from work, or your structured thinking, all these things, it works against you in a relationship. Where you need to listen, change, and have more emotional intelligence. That's why many psychopaths do very well in corporate
Jesus.
But they don't do well in dating.
Why would you say that? He's a psychopath.
That's why even some of these influencers, when I see them, like, or maybe like this, they're not even influencers, they're really, really showy, like, I'm working this, I'm working weekends. I've got no doubt that careers being pushed. I mean, some of them, they're lying, but most of them, it's like, if you're putting more into work, to take you further, hopefully earn you more money. But I also know that I wonder what's happening in your home life. And I remember that I have to just think of it in like my family. My dad was one of those classic workers, worked 7 days a week, because this year I was trying to save my sentence abroad. So that was a sacrifice. But also a point where even for me and my mom, we just never saw him. You know, and that became a strain because then he just became a stranger in the home. And I always tell my dad, it's only at one point when he started getting a bit like burnt out and he started doing half days. I got to know him. So it was just like something like maybe grade 6, grade 7, or just before I entered high school. He was at home a lot more. And then I realized, oh, this guy's actually good for homework. My dad's actually a good thinker, but he had to be almost be forced into taking time
doing that.
For us to realize it was there. But obviously, at work, people loved him. And when I met his friends, Rotary Club, everyone's like, your father, this, your father's. I'm like, I don't even know.
That's amazing. I didn't know. Who is he? Who are you describing?
Say, like, your dad's a comedian. Like, dad's got jokes.
He laughs. Not even he's got jokes. He laughs.
And my dad had some filthy jokes. You know, when he got older, I started hearing them. I was like, this man's a comedian. But at home, I'll be like, yes, dad. He wasn't like full on hard strict or anything. But just like listen to your mom and it was very much like just
he played his role.
Yeah, he played his
almost,
role.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I've been looking back at that because of that halftime work thing. The relationship I have with my dad even up to now, friends are like, you can talk to your dad about that. I was like, yeah, because we started early.
Yeah.
The psychiatry thing I think pushed me to push boundaries in terms of every time you call them like, how are you going, Sonny? You're good. Work's good. They're paying you. Excellent work. Bye. I've got to go work. I'm going golfing. Yeah. And I said, I don't like this conversation. I said,
bring it back.
It's like, and then you get triggered. After that, you get triggered. Like, we're talking, auntie.
Yeah.
It's like, but the quality.
Yeah.
And then that became a difficult discussion where now my dad even doesn't ask about work anymore. He asks, how are you doing? And it's so hard. Good. And it's better for me to lean into. And that I call him more when he starts asking me those questions. So he starts leaning into that because we're grown. And
there is a reward.
But it's not
KPIs.
But
One thing you mentioned though when you gave that option was avoidant attachment styles, and I wanted to talk about attachment styles because I think some people know a lot about it and other people don't know anything about it, and other people choose not to believe it because they just don't think it's a thing. So let's talk attachment styles and how to know if the prompt was, how do I know if I have a secure attachment style?
Everyone always wants that one.
Everyone always wants the secure attachment. Okay, actually, I have another unpopular opinion. I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, an avoidant attachment style isn't ideal, but I would much prefer it over an anxious attachment style.
So you prefer that secure over anxious?
No, ideally secure, right? But I would prefer avoidant over anxious attachment style. Because I was like,
that says a lot about you.
And I really thought about it. I was like, I'm sure this is so telling us so much.
Yes, attachment style.
When I read the anxious one, I'm like,
because like
shout out to y'all.
I'm naturally an anxious attachment style person.
Yeah.
You know? But I think let's backtrack because attachment style, what does that mean?
Yes, what is that? What does that mean? How does that play into relationships? Like,
and I like to keep it very simple because like obviously you can read. I know you and I have done reading into it, so I'll just put keep it simple. Yeah. Because every person ain't about Google that. Yeah. So this is like secure attachment and insecure attachment. So attachment style really is just a type of, I guess, a way in which you view the world, but personality you grow into based on your childhood, relationships you've seen around you, the environment and friends. You develop a way in which you interact with close people around you. Whether that's by close, I mean your siblings, partners, friends, and even co-workers. Yeah. Those determine, and that your attachment style can actually mean how you attach to other people. It's just an interpersonal theory, essentially. And a lot of it's heavily invested in how your childhood went in. That's why I always ask you, tell me about your childhood. It's like, hey, it's been done, man. We're talking about the now.
Because that's what everyone thinks therapy is. Let's talk about your childhood. I mean, I think a lot of it is, but it's not always. Anyway.
So secure attachment, right? Is I think what I was going it's the ideal, because a lot of us, what it means is that you were probably in a family environment where your parents made you feel safe to express and be yourself. And even when you were disciplined, you actually know the rationale behind it. It wasn't like these ran away and I was just beaten for no reason, etc., etc. Even though like back home, the corporal punishment, people are like, oh, that's just how it was back in our day. Yeah. But you look at it now, it's very abusive. But what that means is that even your parents, you saw your parents discuss difficult topics together, rupture and repair. You saw a loving environment. And then you and your siblings were encouraged to work together, friendship groups, parties, like, that.
All that stuff,
Those are like the ideal, like these white picket fence families. Which black people like, oh, me, this one was cheating on this. We had this half siblings. We can't think. But what it means is for secure attachment, when you look at it, you're someone who's got very natural, healthy boundaries for yourself. Some people you meet who just like with natural, healthy boundaries, when you're going through too much, they know it's too much for them, and they'll let you know, like, oh, this is a bit too much for me. I'm going to have to disengage because, like, they may be protecting that peace or whatever, but they naturally have it. Yeah. Where us, we're like, what are boundaries? Is that, am I being too tight? It's like, when you don't know, probably insecure. Yeah. And even then, they also know how to pick healthy relationships. Yeah. And even if the relationship fails, they've got a healthy coping strategy on how to move on and learn from that previous relationship without rebounding. Yeah. And they also know how, when they're alone, they know how to be comfortable alone. Yeah. That's a secure attachment. And there's so many different levels to it, But these are people who are happy by themselves, very good relationship with friends, good relationship with their family, good at work. You even meet them, it's like, man, people like you. It's like, oh, I don't understand. I just like, because they know how to surround themselves and they know what is not healthy for them and they avoid it. Where some of us, we feel like it just is what it is, you know, being in the traps. That's where black life, sometimes you like struggle, like, this is how it is, you know.
The traps,
And so that's a secure attachment. And that's what, interesting enough, the majority of people in the world actually have it. So I think something like 60%.
Yeah.
So in and of itself, and it's not even to do much about wealth. I mean, that does help, but you find people who are like really poor villages, takes a village to raise a child. Those people can actually have really good attachment. You're in the city, Harare, Osaka, or in Sydney, and then you're now got these parents who are never around. You're sent these elitist schools where it's like lots of like Machiavellian tactics to grow up, and you know, it's like survival of the fittest mentality. That usually does not encourage secure attachment, right? Yeah. Insecure attachment, on the other hand, is just the opposite of everything I just explained. Yeah. There are people who find either, and there are different types, so it's anxious and dismissive, avoidant attachment. And I just lump them together, even though it's good to process that. I know you know the difference, but just for the sake of everyone viewing.
It's secure and insecure.
Insecure is the one where a lot of us find ourselves in. You feel, do not create boundaries for yourself. Like you're someone who's like, why do they keep saying, I'm going to read books. They keep saying my boundaries. You don't know. So that's really, you don't make boundaries for yourself. Yeah. You have really intense relationships with people. So you fall in too quickly, or you're quick to run. So that's if they're, so usually the anxious attachment is very codependent, quick to run in, and it's like, oh no, this is my man, this is my woman, that's it, what this, and
that's my bae,
and you get in very intense without really knowing this person. And then people who are avoidant, it's just like, oh no, I have to share emotions, feeling, and being crowded. Exactly, then you run. So that by the name, you're avoidant. With the anxious, you're clinging, like, oh, don't leave me. You're very codependent, very fear of abandonment, is a core theme, and fear of abandonment in all segments, like, oh, is my boss don't like me? Are they going to fire me? Or my dad didn't come on the stage, does not like me. You see it in almost all the other aspects. Yeah. And some people you can find secure at home, insecure in friendships.
I was about to ask, can you be a blend of stuff where, like, not a blend of stuff, but can you be a blend of secure and insecure where it's like you show up secure in these areas and then you show up insecure in this area? Or is it like you're an insecure attachment style, you're insecure attachment style? If you're a secure attachment style, you're a secure attachment style.
Hey, you want the honest answer?
I
think what people like to believe is that you can have this natural blend.
Yeah. There's nothing natural about nothing natural.
Because then people get to pick and choose. It's like, oh no, I'm actually secure at home and this and that. Yeah. If you look at its purest sense, if you're secure, you're secure. And I'm not saying that these people are perfect by any means. It's just that they've got really good identity boundaries, and they know how to form relationships that are healthy for them. Yeah. When insecure, it's opposite of that. You don't know how to make relationships work. You're conflict with family, and that could be their stuff as well. If you come in a very dysfunctional family and it's DV, it's very hard for you to develop a secure. So what most people have is that they might have secure, not at home, because maybe the home, because home is, if there's dysfunction at home, it's very unlikely you're going to just develop a secure from that. Because that's like your core pair caregivers who raise you most of your life, then you go as an adult with all those bad things you've learned. Yeah. But what you can find is at home, dysfunctional, but then you find within your sisterhood and your friends, more secure, because then you have to work on that. Yeah. But then you find when it comes to romantic relationships, oh my gosh, that thing will come out. So in its purest sense, I think you can't really blend them, but I do think you can have them maybe, let's say, in certain groups. So it's either family is secure and other things aren't. But usually if family is secure, you're more likely to just have secure naturally. If you're growing up, family is insecure, likely to fall into everything else. Pathway.
Can you heal from, not heal, no, I'm gonna go with heal. Like, can you go from insecure to secure?
Yeah, you can. A lot of work though.
There's hope, guys.
But a lot of it comes to introspection. Yeah. Because a lot of people who I meet, it's like, oh, maybe I'm secure. Everyone wants to be secure. Oh my gosh. Everyone's
delusional about being secure.
And even if you're not secure, what does that mean? And let's work on it. Yeah. So let's say, for instance, in the Black community especially, lots of insecurity around friendships. Yeah. Or not friendships, sorry, relationships. Yeah.
I mean, friendships too. People look weird about friendships. Yeah. That's a conversation for another day.
Then I would ask, are these really your friends? Yeah. But there's some people who have been through the trenches together, especially men love that we survived Australia where the first ones come in. Yeah. Discrimination. We don't even like each other, but because we've survived some traumatic experiences together, we believe we owe each other. Yeah. Friendship. Yeah. But then as we get bigger, I'm like,
actually,
yeah, that's why you don't open to your boys. And even when people tell me like, oh, that's why I don't introduce my partners to my friends, because usually not because they're embarrassed of the girls. Sometimes it's that, but then it's like, well, they might hit on my girl. Those are not your friends. Yeah, those are not really your friends.
It's okay to let them go.
Yeah, exactly.
They serve their purpose now.
Yeah, and even for you also hit on your friend's wife. It's like, people do this thing where it's like I think the way we used to be taught it when I was in high school, because that's when I used to see these behaviors, is that you better treat her right or I'll treat her better. So that became...
People, I've still to this day, people openly say things like that. And I'm like, Huh?
And people respond to that because then in our mind it's like, oh, because if you're on the receiving end of that, whether you're a man or woman,
yeah,
like, hey, who's going to give me the best treatment?
That's wild, but that's anyway. Yes,
and then once you start, that's high school. Once you get to that point, you go there. In your mind, it's that you're only sorry. So I'm not just distracting, but you can get on it. You can work, but a lot of it means a lot of introspection.
Yeah.
Interpersonal based type therapy. So most people do need some sort of therapy.
Yeah.
Depending on it.
People hate to hear that.
Yeah.
People hate to hear that. This is for Nora and Daniel from Disruption Podcast.
Oh yeah.
Did you hear?
No,
most people need therapy.
But most people afford it. That's the part I understand. Access to therapy, there are barriers there.
Yeah.
But more of us need, because you need that space where someone can actually put the mirror back at you. That's what I love therapy is. It's like you're not there with the therapist, you're there with yourself.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of therapists say nothing. So even me, I talk the most when I'm outside of my rooms.
Yeah.
When I'm in my clinical space, I say so little.
Yeah.
And someone has seen me at work before and it's like, man, you look so serious. You don't even like joking, because our role is not to take up the room with you. You take up the room with your personality,
with your everything. Yeah.
And then I can throw it back in. I wonder what this looks like. It's like, oh, that's me. Then we work on that space. Yeah. And even then, it just tells you a lot about your childhood and things like that. And you can course correct it. And you try small steps. So the first step is saying, let's say some people feel that, what's a simple one I'd say? You meet someone and then you feel pressured. Do we have to make it sexual early? But if you don't give them sex early, what does that mean for a relationship? There are other ways of emotional intimacy, or intimacy you can build without it being sexual. Yeah. And I think not everyone knows that lingo. I think more and more women know it, and men were getting there.
But that doesn't mean, just because more women know it, doesn't mean they play to it. Okay. In that, even in church settings, people feel like they have to have sex to keep a relationship.
Yeah. Oh, and even let's talk about that.
Secure a relationship and keep the relationship.
Let's talk about that, because the number of things which, even from whether it's within the church or outside the church, some people where it's like, you cannot deny your man. You know, and even like the cultural teaching.
Yeah.
I'm a man. I don't want to be that girl's anti-church. Yeah. But there are certain institutions where in the cultural thing, we're doing premarital counseling, because the aunties, they're telling you how to satisfy your man, how to cook for him. When your man's angry, you
can't say no. I actually have a problem with that one, but
and to be honest with you, and some people it's like, it's interesting because when you break it down, especially women, it's like, if I don't give him sex, you go find sex elsewhere. But the question is that if that's all that's keeping you together, that's a bigger problem. Or that's also stopping him from cheating, is you hiding it. That's not a healthy place to be. But because it's so normalized, you know, and even then we also like saying men are sexual creatures. Look at us and stuff we watch. Even sometimes I even post on my Instagram and I'm a bit problematic. Where I'll post like music videos, even things like thong song and write lyrics. I'm like, what are these songs taught us? We like them, but a lot of the songs we watch are very sexual. To a point where as I get older, I'm like, I see why those Christians are into this whole secular music is not good business. You know,
let's talk about it, because what? You mentioned someone says maybe they want to take it slow. It's at the 3-month mark, whatever. How long is too long to be getting to know each other / being in a talking stage / what's normal, what's not normal, who dictates normal, when should things go?
I think it's case by case, but more often the trend is women want that phase to be shorter, men want that phase to be longer, right? But I have this working theory on that. I feel like men go from, oh, you're a human who's intrigued me, to I'm in love, which is why they need that stage to be longer. Whereas women can go from, oh, you've intrigued me, I like you, I'm in love. Yes.
Is my theory on track? Does it hold some water?
No, I think it's on track, except the part where it's like, I think I need to know you then love. I don't know if men reach the love part that early. Because many men, what does love mean to black men? And you know, and that's a story for another day, because many black men ask them, go ask any black men. You know,
but are you trying to tell me that in 6 months a man wouldn't have fallen in love?
Yeah, no, because if he doesn't know how to love himself or love women,
okay,
it doesn't matter how many people do.
You're not wrong.
I've been 2 years together. Still no.
On that. Yeah, you know, everyone tried to make it seem like I was a bad person. We were talking to this guy, and then he was like, he just gotten out of a relationship or whatever. I don't know how he found himself anyway, we'll all hang out. And then he was like, oh yeah, we broke up, blah, blah, blah. But he didn't really seem that sad about it. Anyway, so then now they're asking, oh, did you love her or something? And then he was, and then he goes, define love.
Yeah.
The minute he said that, I said to them, he didn't love her. They're like, Kudzai, you can't say that.
No, that's accurate.
I said, okay, my bad. You define love, and then you tell us by your standards of if you love, your definition of love if you loved her. He was like, I said, did I not tell y'all he didn't love her? What are we still talking? I said, whether or not you have a definition of love, working definition or not, if you felt you loved someone, forget the working definition, because by your definition, you loved them. So you don't need someone else to define what love is for you to answer yes or no.
See, so if you can't define it at all, that's why men takes them so wild. When I will propose, when is escalation? Because a lot of us just look at relationships as things that stop us from being bad. Like a lot of women who actually, if a woman, okay, now I'm looking after myself a bit better, she makes me look good in public.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like you even start behaving better, even if you have bad characteristics in you. But a lot of things around love, that's why I don't even say love to black men. I usually say, let's start with like. What do you like about yourself? What do you like about women?
Yeah.
Because when you start saying love, that means they've got this trajectory where they can build something deeper.
Yeah.
Because love in the healthy way, I mean, it was another definition of love, but I think in a loving relationship, people can both be emotionally vulnerable, honest to each other, and transparent about the issues that arise in a relationship.
Yeah.
And when you're together, you actually feel that it's healthy, it's safe for both of you.
Yeah.
And you can build on from that. You even think like, man, I really want to keep seeing my girl.
So do you need that before you get into the relationship, or because we're trying to know when people supposed to transition?
When are they supposed to transition?
You know, when do you?
I think it's I wish men, we lie a lot about that, because we know women want to hear a shorter period than what we want to say. So let's
give me a stock standard answer, and then give me what men would like.
Oh, stock standard answer within 3 to 6 months you'll be able to determine. And more men, I'll say lean to 6 months, because 3 months is when we get taught to bail.
6 months is so long.
If you're in the toxic phase, if you grew up in toxic masculinity, which is many of us, the red pill movement, 3 months is where you get in, do your love, and then bail. Because after 3 months, usually women will escalate and like, what are we? Those conversations, and we're taught to run from those. As opposed, what that really means is that, is there a future for us? Do you see a future with me?
Yeah.
Do you like where our relationship's progressing?
Yeah.
And these are the conversations many men were not comfortable having.
Yeah.
So is there time to ghost or hightail it? Or even the men who double down, they're like, I know she wants to hear. Men know what you want to hear, so we lie. And then we keep going on until we eventually can't lie anymore. It's like, then you wake up one day and it's like, we're done, I don't like you anymore, so I've moved on.
Yeah.
Like, what? And you as a woman,
what happened?
Blindsided.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't honest from the beginning.
Yeah.
But I do think a lot of men feel they need more time, because we don't know, we're so insecure about what marriage should look like. Let's say marriage, let's aim for marriage. Let's say long-term relationship, loving around marriage to end. In our mind, like, have I got my money together? Have I got this thing? But
that's a really big conversation where a lot of guys don't know when to like propose, if they should propose what, and I'm like, huh?
Have you talked to your partner about proposing? That's when you know. The healthiest guys, the ones who talk to their partner and said, you know what, she's thinking about this. We discussed timelines.
Okay, I think people can have conversations, but still not know. Like, is it now? Is it like in 6 months? Like,
you mean like the man or the woman not knowing? Who's not knowing?
Usually it's the man. This is why I hate dating conversations, because I feel like they're so geared towards like holding a women's hands through. It's boring. No, like I feel like the men aren't having the conversations, and we can all identify the men are like the. This is why I hate dating conversations, because I'm like, all the books, all the whatever is all geared towards women. Like, can we focus on other things, please?
And I think one of the main points I think with that, and you speak really accurately on that point, is that many of us men, I think we set the pace for marriages. So let's say if you're a guy and you're sure of yourself, you know how to respect women, you see what you want in a woman and you want to build with her, those guys, you see them, in fact, they get nabbed in marriage, it's very clear. When this guy, Clive, whoever his name came in, he knew what he wanted. So men actually drive many relationships. So if you're a man, you're a passive aggressive, you're a liar, you're a cheater, it's going to lead that relationship to that angle.
Yeah.
If you're a man who leads with authenticity, even if it's like, your religion is good, and you're not one of these showy Christian guys who can quote everything. Some people, it's like, my relationship with God is this.
Yeah.
Like, because I didn't say my brother, he enjoys the church aspect because of the community. He feels like it's a safe space.
Yeah.
They help out other people in need. They've got a few things. He likes that. If you said it's like, let's go and like the pastor's always on point, he enjoys that because they're good pastors, but he enjoys what the community he gets from church. Yeah. That's his biggest thing. Like the people he meets, the way we help other people, and the way I can just tell people, I'm feeling sick recently and this and that. Yeah. He can't find that in other circles. And I said that he tried. And obviously, black male circles, being open vulnerably, we're getting better, but I don't go to all my black male friends and say, yo, man, I actually feel like I'm not winning it. And especially when you've got my job and profession, people just assume you got this. You have a secure job, the money in the bank. What are you talking about? Just get to
what's the problem?
Yeah, what's the problem? And then you realize like it's never been about the money and the career prestige for men.
Yeah.
But ultimately, men drive it. So until men start focusing on how to make relationships better for women through the way we understand, we're not going to get there. And that's the part where there's the delay.
I know that's right. That was the answer I wanted to hear.
Yes.
Last one. I love this one. I'm so excited to hear your thoughts. I've just been ghosted. Now what?
Ooh.
Actually, can we also do the flip side? If I want to ghost, should I? I feel like, look, men and women be ghosting. I just don't think we should discriminate.
Generally. But like, okay, so let's answer. Which one should we answer first?
Let's go with I've just been ghosted. What do I do?
I was gonna say,
well, actually, what other sign? Oh no, people know what being ghosted looks like. Yeah, I've just been ghosted.
Yes, I think. Do you accept you're being ghosted? Because then people go and it's like, no, I'm chasing him. I actually knew someone who went and stalked the guy's house after being ghosted. I want to just make sure it takes back to you.
I was gonna say closure's a myth.
Yeah, you see, and you need to find closure in yourself.
Yeah.
If you're gonna try and find closure in someone's ghosted you, especially if it's a man, because we don't provide the closure we provide is like, all right, I guess we can meet up if you want to. And then that's if they even get back to you.
Yeah.
You know, and even when you meet up, if you're going there to try and maybe win the relationship back, that's never gonna help you.
Yeah.
And I think the best closure you can just have is just, can you walk away and recognize what is it I fell for in this man and why do I think he ghosted me, and accepting you might never know the answers. Like, those is a myth.
Yeah.
But then knowing that, okay, next time, because people have been ghosted many times.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm like, maybe it's a pattern you should look about for yourself. Which men blindside you and then ghost you? So it says something about how you pick men. So it's easy to be blindsided by people with access and money, because money is very distracting.
Yeah.
He came, he took me out, he's bought me a few gifts. I thought we were going places, he vanished. You know?
Yeah.
Because sometimes men also look at women as like achievement or thing like, oh, she's really attractive, or she's
I was gonna say there's actually a thing that I've noticed where men will like approach certain women, not necessarily for the relationship aspect, but I guess to kind of be able to say that they
bragging rights
dated her or like whatever it is, which is so bizarre because like, why? Like, you got her attention. You could have just closed the deal. You don't want to close the deal? Like, what? You just wanted to be, huh?
I think because many of us, it's a toxic masculinity, like, I guess, community where it's like, oh, that guy's been with the baddies, you know? So it's like, we look at it as numbers game. And because women, we don't look at women as people, but objects or stepping stones to better things for us. Yeah. So some people, it's like, even if a man went and he slept with, let's say, 100 women, and then he decides today, like, you know what, time to settle down. People would still let him settle down.
Yeah, they would.
No one's going to bring out, oh, this guy is body count.
No,
some of your close friends might say, hey, be careful, he used to be a player back in the day. Then when you start looking at the history, he's actually changed. Maybe he's going to church or he's doing his redemption arc, you know?
Don't do that. Don't do that.
And some men actually recognize that all that isn't good. And I've met many friends who have like, well, not friends, let me just say friends. Well, yeah, friends. People who have been really out there and slept many women. Guys with 500 women slept with. And the girl will come to me and say like, I'm really not happy.
Yeah.
You know? And it's the type of guy who will call you, send you text message at 11 p.m. like, I just think a bit lonely. What do you get? This is a text message I get because I get a mental health guy. So people feel like they open up.
Feel comfortable, So
these guys who've seen like, that guy's a tough guy. Then he texts me like, I'm just lonely at home, man. And it's like, that hole is not going to be filled by you sleeping with all these women.
Yeah.
And you need to like stop that and maybe disengage. And can you look at women as something else than sexual objects?
Yeah.
But that's a harder hurdle for people to cross over. You know? Okay,
so I want to ghost.
You want to ghost?
What should I do?
Don't become the enemy. The fire with fire is not going to help anyone.
Okay, can you give us more context?
Sorry. Oh, so do you want to ghost?
Yeah, like someone wants to ghost.
Don't do it. Just be an adult.
Okay, what does being an adult look like?
If you want to leave the relationship.
Because I'd like to give context. In a previous season, I have said my unpopular opinion is that ghosting is okay.
Yeah, and I think if that's where you're at in capacity, that's true. But if you're thinking,
I also just think it's closure. Sometimes the people don't have the capacity to, even if you gave them a long paragraph explaining why you're about to.
In that case, I wonder whether that other person has just poor boundaries and is going to keep chasing you and hounding you, so you find it easy to see. Yeah. So it says a lot more about what the dynamic is there. And there's some men where men are scary and dangerous, so sometimes better to ghost, because if the more you engage the man, even men will just say, hey babe. It's women's DMs, guys, hey baby. And
men can speak to themselves in DMs. My goodness, have shame.
It's
free.
Hello once or even something back, you're in trouble. You're being engaged. That's why ghosting for women in that sense, if the person's really not accepting and really trying to be forceful and push your boundaries and step over and not respect you. Because that's what many women, if they're ghosting, they've tried to be civil and say it's not working for us. I think, oh no, I can change. Why are you giving up so early? And that's when I'll say ghosting is okay. Yeah. But if you're actually someone who has capacity and you're just like, oh, it's not for me, then it says maybe you're not used to having difficult discussions, or that you're immature about it, or he is, or both of you together do not have mature discussions. And that's when you ghost. But then that means in the future, if you want to have any relationship of substance, you have to figure out how you're going to communicate. Build
up that muscle. Yeah.
So that's it. So I don't know if I've answered the question now.
No, you answered it. That was all we had and all we have time for, lol. On that note, what is one parting advice that you would, one piece of whatever, what is a tool you think people should have in their toolbox for dating? I'd like to go first. Sorry, I'd like to. I asked you, and I was like, I'd like to go first because I know we're probably going to digress from yours. But I think, and this is coming, okay, it's like a Christian principle, but I also just think it works for anyone, not to obsess over like relationships and relationship statuses to the point that it impacts where you spend your time, how you spend your time, how you spend your money, like who you're with. Because I can only speak because obviously I'm usually surrounded by a lot of females, and sometimes I get like, it's really sad to like see that someone wants to go somewhere or wear a certain thing or do a certain thing, but they can't because they feel it'll make them be perceived a certain way, or it won't give them access to like a certain kind of person or whatever, or like they have a goal to get into a relationship or whatever, so they now need to, whatever it is. I just think don't obsess over it. Don't obsess over it. Focus on you. What do you like? Who are you? And I genuinely believe as a natural progression of that, you'll be in the spaces where you'll find someone where it clicks. Yes. And hopefully in that process, as you're being introspective in those ways, you're also being introspective in other ways that mean when that person comes and it clicks, you are also able to stay clicked. You don't dismiss or push the person away. So yes, that is my tool.
Ooh, I like
over
that
to
one.
you.
I think
Thank you.
Mine is, don't be afraid to have difficult discussions.
Yes.
That don't even have clear answers. You know.
That is a big one, and something I had to learn, where I only thought difficult conversations should be had, again, black and white thinking, difficult conversations should be had when there is a solution. But if there can be no solution, what's the point in like going through the effort of having the difficult conversation?
Exactly. The process of having those difficult conversations and having great answers is part of the process to solving that difficult situation. Yeah. But many of us, like I said, the black and white thinking, we want answers. Yeah. We don't want more vagueness.
If I bring it up, you should be able to change it by this, or your apology should make it better, or da-da-da. Cool. Awesome. But then it's like sometimes you have the conversation and it's an ongoing process of like, okay, how can I grow to understand, da-da-da, and you keep it moving. Or sometimes it just builds emotional intimacy. Like, we had the difficult conversation. I understand you better now. You like, yeah.
Okay, so even, let's say, give an example to that, right? Is that many people are used to having, let's say, difficult conversation, and let's say they go black and white answer based. So woman's got one thing to say, man's got one thing to say, and then it's like someone has to compromise. That's how a lot of the difficult discussions get solved. Like, you know what, wifey gets 5, I get 2. Well, it's like we take turns and who gets the needs met. But let's say if you've got a difficult conversation, let's say around things of, is now the right time to have family? Because you've just been married or something. Oh no, that's too far in the thing. Let's just talk about now, maybe is now the right time to meet my parents or even my church friends. And then people are like yes or no. But then people say the more difficult thing is, I'm a bit anxious because once you start bringing family into it and culturally, they start escalating down to Lola, to now
all of it.
You're getting married, and then I don't know if I could tell you that right now. And even a man could tell you that, like, if you put me on the spot right now, that 2 years from now we're married, I think you'd want me to say yes, but I don't know. But that's difficult because a woman would be like, 2 years time I would like to be married. I don't want to be dating forever.
I don't want to be a girlfriend forever,
But then at least then that you've heard the truth.
Yeah.
And then there you can sit with it, and I think some people will say, okay, and then asking him, even then moving on from there, what would it look like for you then to be choosing marriage? Because I think that's what we don't ask men enough. You see, and then that becomes it's a difficult conversation, but you can see here that they're having no clear answers, but now we're building towards, and then the man feels like, oh, I'm not being criticized.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? maybe I feel that's my money up. But then since I've been dating you, men save more money when they're in a relationship.
Yeah.
So even by the time you get married and now you're investing your money together, you get richer. That's what all these billionaires, even Jeff Bezos remarried. Imagine, people say like...
Women are good for you.
And marriage is good for you. That's something we don't even talk about. But
I mean, okay, that's a side note. Married men do the best. Like...
Financially, health-wise, mentally.
All of it, yeah. And then the best are single women.
Can you imagine? No.
I believe in relationships. I do, but I just think, again, as a black and white thinker.
Let me add the brain to less black and white thinking. But you and the way you think, more and more women are thinking that way.
Singleness is best for women and marriage is best for men. Huh? The trade-off.
Marriage has always, since the inception, benefited men.
Yeah.
But now because we're redefining and changing...
Well, no, not yes. I think it should benefit both parties in a healthy way. And biblically, I know that there are ways where it can look healthy for everyone involved. I just think we've gone and... ruined it.
Yeah, that's a story for another day. But the way the stats work is that marriage can also be really good for women if they're in a healthy marriage.
Yes.
Where otherwise you're better off being single. Where for men, even if the marriage is not it's so-so, or it's good, that's better than you being single.
Yeah.
That's I
like that.
Men try and get a new girlfriend or second wife, third wife, because them being on their own, and you've met them. We all know someone who's been divorced. The man out there is struggling.
Yeah.
And you meet them like, yo, man, this guy used to be put together. Now he's like a mess. Then you realize that the wife was probably adding or padding to that.
Yeah.
But if you ask her, she's like, I was being emotionally drained. My cup wasn't being filled.
Yeah.
So it wasn't useful to her.
Yeah.
And that's why I think a lot of women then can lean more into like, no, my space, single mom. But even then, a lot of people, you can be single and happy, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But if you really want a relationship, I do think that the sense of grief and sadness that comes because you want to be in a relationship. Yeah. But you're like, it's looking bad now. Let me protect my peace. And there's other memes now. I protect my peace so much. I'm myself.
Those ones. Yeah. No, I feel that. On that note, thank you for coming back on. This was a fun conversation. If you guys want him back, let me know. Maybe we'll do a relationship seminar. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
Remember, I'm not a relationship counselor. Let me just
I don't possibly. No, that is so off brand for me. No. Let's into